At the reunion, laughter echoed through the hall. Old classmates whispered, their words sharp as blades. "You are still poor," mocking the quiet woman in the corner. They remembered her only as the timid girl from years ago, never knowing how much she had changed. Yet within minutes the atmosphere shifted. The same men they admired most, respected generals, would rise, salute, and kneel before her, revealing a truth no one had ever imagined. The autumn sun filtered gently through the tall windows of Elena Walker's office. Papers and reports lay scattered across her desk, but her eyes rested only on one thing: a white envelope with golden letters. It was an invitation to her 25th high school reunion. For a long moment her hands trembled. She had faced battlefields and commanded soldiers, yet the thought of seeing her old classmates unsettled her heart. Memories rushed back, days when she sat alone at the back of the classroom, avoiding cruel whispers. They had mocked her clothes, her poverty, even her silence. Their voices still echoed, sharp and merciless. Elena sighed and placed the invitation down. Should she go? Or should she bury the past once more? A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. It was her husband, Andrew Walker, holding 2 cups of tea. His warm eyes read her hesitation at once. "The reunion again?" he asked gently. Elena nodded. Andrew set the cups down and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You are not that frightened girl anymore. You are a woman who shines on her own. Show them who you really are." His words filled her with quiet strength. She had endured too much to run from old wounds. The day of the reunion arrived, and Elena stood before her mirror. For the first time in years, she wore no uniform. Instead, a black dress, a pearl necklace, and carefully styled hair framed her face. In her eyes there was no fear, only the calm determination of someone who had fought countless battles and survived. With her keys in hand, Elena whispered to herself, "I will not hide. I will face them." And she stepped into the night that waited for her. The evening air was crisp as Elena Walker drove toward the grand hotel where the reunion was being held. Streetlights shimmered across the windshield, and her heart carried a strange heaviness. She had worn medals on her chest in military parades, stood unshaken in war rooms filled with generals, but tonight was different. Tonight she would walk into a hall filled with the ghosts of her past. As she parked her car and approached the entrance, her husband's words echoed in her mind. "You are enough, Elena, just as you are." She straightened her shoulders and entered. The banquet hall glowed with chandeliers. Laughter and chatter filled the air. Women in sparkling gowns flaunted jewelry, their husbands in expensive suits at their side. For a brief moment all conversation ceased as eyes turned toward Elena. She stood tall, dressed simply in a black gown and pearls, her poise radiating quiet dignity. Then came the first voice, sweet but sharp as glass. "Oh, Elena, how long it's been." It was Marina Scott, once the queen of the class. Her smile was dazzling, but her eyes carried the same coldness Elena remembered from childhood. She scanned Elena's dress with a predator's gaze. "Hello, Marina," Elena replied softly, a calm smile fixed on her lips. Other classmates gathered around, their glances dripping with condescension. "Still working, Elena?" asked Olga Peterson, her words honeyed with mockery. Her husband, a stout man with a self-satisfied smirk, chimed in. "My wife hasn't worked a day in years. That's a real husband's duty, don't you think?" Laughter spread like wildfire. Elena inhaled slowly, her years of discipline steadying her heart. "In my case, work is not a burden. It is part of who I am." Her voice was firm, unshaken. Olga's husband faltered for a second, surprised by her composure, before sneering again. But Elena did not flinch. Dinner began. From across the hall, Elena heard whispers. "She still wears the same style. Poor thing. Her husband must not earn much." Another voice laughed. "If she had married well, she would not be struggling like this." Each word stung, yet she remained steady. For 25 years, she had trained her heart in silence, learning that dignity is not given by others, it is forged. The evening grew louder. Glasses clinked, music swelled, and the mockery became bolder. Finally, a classmate shouted across the tables, "Elena, what do you even do now? And your husband? What is he?" All eyes turned to her. She lifted her gaze, her voice clear. "Andrew teaches military science at the university. And as for me, I work because I choose to, not because I must." The room fell into uneasy murmurs. Some exchanged puzzled looks, others laughed quietly, but none could shake the calm strength in her words. Then came Svetlana Reed, her voice sharper than the rest. "Do you remember, Elena, how you once survived on just a piece of bread a day?" We all remember. The hall froze. Laughter died in an instant. Every face waited for Elena to crumble, but she rose slowly from her chair. Her back was straight, her eyes steady. She walked toward Svetlana's table. "Yes," she said clearly, "I ate bread alone, and I never felt shame. Poverty is not disgrace. True disgrace is abandoning your dream because of it." Her words struck the hall into silence. The laughter that once filled the room seemed suddenly small, almost pitiful. Marina tried to laugh it off. "Oh, Elena, we were only remembering old times. Don't take it to heart." Elena smiled gently. "I don't. I only find it sad that after all these years, some still measure people by wealth and appearance." For the first time that night, heads lowered in quiet shame. The banquet that had begun with scorn was shifting, though no one yet understood just how much the night would change. The reunion reached its peak. Music played softly, wine flowed, and yet the air seemed heavy with judgment. Elena sat at her table, silent, sipping from her glass. Around her, whispers rose again. She has not changed at all. Still living so modestly. Her husband must be a failure. Their words carried cruelty disguised as casual chatter. Elena kept her posture steady, though inside her chest, old wounds ached. She thought briefly, perhaps I should not have come. But then she remembered Andrew's words, "You are enough, Elena," and lifted her chin. Moments later, Olga's husband staggered over, reeking of alcohol. He leaned close, pretending to be friendly. "You're still the same, aren't you? Poor then, poor now. Tell me, is this even a life?" His smirk cut deep, but Elena breathed slowly, as she had learned in the harshest military training. "By your measure, perhaps I am poor, but every life has its own values," she answered calmly. He laughed awkwardly and walked away, but his words left an echo of contempt. The host took the microphone, inviting classmates to share memories. Elena listened as they recounted stories of wealth, vacations, careers. Then came Svetlana's voice again, sharp and merciless. "Elena, remember when you survived on one slice of bread for lunch? We all remember." The room grew still. Every eye turned to Elena. Some smirked, waiting for humiliation. Others leaned forward, eager for drama. Elena rose slowly. She walked with measured steps to the center of the hall. Her voice was clear, steady. "Yes, I ate bread, I was poor, but I never believed it shameful. Poverty is not disgrace. The true shame is surrendering your dream and hiding behind excuses." The silence was heavy, pierced only by the clinking of a glass dropped at the back of the room. Marina forced a laugh, her tone uneasy. "Oh, Elena, don't take it so seriously, we were only joking." Elena turned her gaze on her. Her smile was soft, but her eyes glowed with unshakable strength. "I am not offended, but I pity those who still judge people by their clothes and wealth." A ripple moved through the hall. For the first time that evening, faces shifted from mockery to discomfort. Even some husbands exchanged uneasy glances. Elena's presence, once overlooked, now weighed on them all. Then suddenly the doors opened. The host called, "Please, husbands, join us for the group photograph." A group of men entered, dressed in elegant suits. Among them, 3 stood out, Their posture was straight, their gaze sharp. Their very presence carried authority. Elena's eyes caught on one of them. Recognition flashed across his face and he froze. It was General David Scott, Marina's husband. His jaw tightened, his hand moved sharply to his temple. In a ringing voice he saluted. "Lieutenant General Walker, ma'am, good evening." Gasps spread through the hall. The two other men, also generals, followed suit, saluting her with equal respect. Their voices thundered, "Good evening, Commander." For a moment, the hall was frozen in disbelief. Marina's glass slipped from her hand, shattering against the floor. Svetlana's mouth hung open. Olga's eyes darted between Elena and her own confused husband. Elena inclined her head with calm authority, her expression now transformed. The gentle smile was gone, replaced by the steel of a commander. Generals at ease. This is not the battlefield. It is a reunion. Still, the men stood stiffly, their eyes filled with reverence. Marina turned pale as her husband explained in a low, strained voice. "Elena Walker is our commanding officer. She leads the Special Operations Forces. She holds rank above me." A collective gasp rippled through the classmates. The timid girl they once mocked was now a general. Their husbands, whom they flaunted as powerful, stood humbled before her. Some lowered their heads in shame. Others stared in awe, unable to comprehend the transformation. The hall, once filled with laughter at Elena's expense, now drowned in silence. She looked across the sea of stunned faces, her presence commanding every corner of the room. "I am still Elena," she said gently, "but life has taken me on a path you never imagined." The balance of the night had shifted forever. The hall was utterly silent. All eyes were fixed on Elena Walker, who stood tall in her simple black dress. Just minutes before, she had been the object of whispers and ridicule. Now 3 decorated generals saluted her with the reverence of soldiers before their commander. Marina's face drained of color. She clutched her husband's arm, her voice trembling. "David, what is happening? Why are you saluting her?" General David Scott did not look at his wife. His eyes stayed on Elena, his posture rigid. "Because she is my superior officer. She is Lieutenant General Walker, commander of the Special Operations Forces. She outranks me by 2 levels." The words struck the room like thunder. A murmur spread among the classmates. Some gasped, others simply stared, frozen in disbelief. Marina's hand fell limply to her side, her jeweled bracelets clinking faintly. Elena met David's gaze with calm authority. "Generals, relax. Tonight we are not on duty. We are among old friends." The 3 men lowered their hands, but their bearing remained respectful. Around them, the husbands of other classmates shifted uneasily. They had spent the evening boasting of wealth and status, yet now their confidence withered in the shadow of Elena's command. Olga whispered hoarsely to her husband, "Did you know?" He shook his head, sweat forming on his brow. The arrogant smile that never left his face had vanished. Svetlana, who had mocked Elena most, could not close her mouth. "Impossible," she muttered, as if denying what her eyes showed. Elena scanned the room. Her eyes were steady, her voice calm. "I am still the same person you once knew, but life has shaped me differently. I never sought to prove myself to you. I only sought to serve my country and to honor my path." Her words cut through the heavy silence. Some classmates lowered their eyes, ashamed. Others shifted restlessly, unable to reconcile the poor girl of their memories with the powerful woman before them. The host, flustered, tried to regain control. Well, let's continue with the group photograph." But no one moved. All attention clung to Elena. Slowly, she walked toward the front. Her heels tapped against the polished floor, each step echoing in the quiet hall. The generals followed her instinctively, as if still on parade ground. The classmates parted, leaving her a clear path. When they gathered for the photo, whispers broke again. Marina leaned to her husband, her voice desperate. "She will ruin me. She knows how I treated her." David's reply was low, firm. Whatever you said, she will not use it against you. She is not that kind of person. The photographer, nervously adjusting his camera, whispered, "General, could you stand here?" For the first time, many realized the photographer addressed Elena. As the flash went off, Elena stood serene among them. She did not bask in triumph, nor did she show resentment. She was steady, as if the years of humiliation had been nothing more than stepping stones toward this moment. When the picture was done, the atmosphere shifted again. People began lining up, not for food, not for wine, but to speak with Elena. Those who had ignored her for decades now offered compliments, invitations, even apologies wrapped in nervous laughter. "Elena, we never knew. Our husbands respect you so deeply. We must meet again soon." Elena smiled politely, offering nods and brief words, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She saw through their sudden warmth. To her, their shallow admiration mattered little. What mattered was that the wound of her past no longer controlled her. Finally, Marina approached her. For the first time, the arrogance was gone. Her voice shook. "Elena, may we talk outside?" Elena studied her face for a moment, then nodded. They stepped into the cool night air, leaving behind the golden lights of the hall. In the garden, silence hung between them. Marina fidgeted, her perfect curls trembling in the breeze. "General Walker," she began awkwardly, unable to call her simply by name. Elena's lips curved into a gentle smile. "You can still call me Elena." Marina shook her head, her eyes moist. "No, you are too great for that. Listen, tell my husband we were only classmates. Don't let him know how cruel I was to you back then, or tonight." For a moment, Elena was silent. She understood the plea immediately. Marina feared losing face. She feared her husband's respect would crumble if he knew the truth. Finally, Elena answered softly, "Do not worry. I will not speak of it." Relief washed over Marina's face, but tears followed quickly. "You were always strong. No matter how much we mocked you, you never lost your dignity. Only now do I realize how much courage that took." Elena studied her carefully. Were those tears sincere, or only another mask? Perhaps both. Yet it did not matter. Marina had spoken words of apology, however imperfect. "The past is past," Elena said gently. Her tone carried no bitterness. It was the voice of someone who had already healed. Marina lowered her head, whispering, "Forgive me." Her shoulders trembled, her jewels catching the light of the lanterns. Elena placed a hand lightly on her arm. "I hold no anger. We all walk our own paths. What matters is walking with dignity." For a moment, Marina looked at her with true awe. "You are incredible," she whispered. Elena smiled faintly. "We all have our battles. Mine just took me further than you expected." The two women stood in silence, the cool night carrying away years of bitterness. It was not reconciliation, not yet, but it was a step forward. When Elena and Marina returned inside, the reunion was winding down. Music played softly, but the laughter had quieted. The classmates who once mocked her now watched with hesitant respect. Some avoided her eyes altogether, their earlier arrogance replaced with shame. A few approached her timidly. "Elena, we admire you so much. We never imagined, forgive us." Their words were clumsy, half apologies wrapped in praise. Elena answered each with calm politeness, but in her heart she knew she did not need their approval. Her worth had never depended on them. She excused herself and stepped once more into the night. Outside, a group of classmates stood waiting, their faces uneasy. The crisp autumn air stirred fallen leaves around their feet. Elena paused, studying them. "We have all changed," she said gently. Her voice carried the quiet authority of someone who had walked through fire. "The future we once dreamed of as children is not what we found. Life leads us where we do not expect." They listened in silence. Even those who had laughed the loudest now bowed their heads. Marina's eyes glistened. Svetlana bit her lip, and Olga shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet Elena's gaze. In the army, Elena continued, I learned the true meaning of strength. It is not stepping over others. It is rising again after every fall. It is living with dignity, even when the world mocks you. The word struck deep. For a moment, even the generals stood humbled beside their wives, their eyes reflecting respect beyond rank. Elena smiled softly. We all walk our own paths. If only we walked them with understanding for one another, the world would be better. A hush settled over the group, some eyes filled with tears, others with quiet regret. Marina whispered, You are right. We were blind. Elena gave a final nod, then turned toward her car. Before getting in, she looked back one last time. Her classmates stood together, no longer laughing, no longer cruel, only reflective, perhaps even changed. She entered the car, the door closing gently behind her. As the driver started the engine, Elena gazed out the window at the hotel fading into the distance. A long breath escaped her lips, light and free. For the first time, the shadow of her past no longer pressed on her heart. She thought of Andrew, waiting for her at home, his steady warmth always guiding her. A smile touched her face. She was no longer the timid girl hiding in the back of the classroom. She was a woman who had faced her scars and emerged stronger. The road stretched ahead, dark but full of promise. Elena leaned back in her seat, her eyes shining with peace. The wounds of yesterday were healed. What remained was the strength of a woman who had learned the true meaning of dignity.